¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday. How's it going, everybody? Cosmic Seeking Kevin. Alio, how's it going? Taco Tuesday, is it? I don't know about that. But it is Tuesday. How's it going, everybody? It is quite chilly outside. At a brisk 40-something degrees today. Welcome, everybody. We do have quite the amount of things to go through, so we will get it started. Hold on, folks. What is going on here? There we go. All right, folks. I guess we should get it started. Folks, if you if you have a moment and would like to support this channel, head on over to the YouTube channel and just click the subscribe button. It really does help us out. Takes 5 seconds, I promise. All right, first story. I guess we should do some polls, yeah? In depressing news, Dr. Oz closing in on Fetterman in Pennsylvania Senate race. The reason why we're covering this is because Pennsylvania is going to be one of the important ones on the list. We're helping to decide who will control the Senate. Republican Dr. Oz has narrowed Democrat John Fetterman's lead in a Pennsylvania bare-knuckle Senate election, and the two candidates are now polling inside the margin of error, according to a new survey shared exclusively with Politico. Something that should have been an easy W is turning into a coin toss as we get closer to the midterms. Fetterman is slightly ahead with 48% of likely voters, while Oz has 46%. A poll by AARP found that's a shift in Oz's direction since June, when Fetterman, the state's lieutenant governor, was leading by 6 percentage points in the AARP survey. In recent months, Fetterman has come under heavy negative advertising by Oz and his allies, who have accused him of being soft on crime. Again, I mean, if that's the best you can do, it's wild that this is what this is the kind of talking points that people buy. Whatever. Fetterman's image has sunk since June, though it is still right side up by a hair. 46% of likely voters view him favorably, compared with 45% who see him unfavorably. In June, the same number of voters looked at him favorably, but only 36% perceived him unfavorably. Oz, meanwhile, has boosted his favorability rating since June, when he was emerging from a brutal GOP primary in which his opponents drubbed him as a carpetbagger and faux Republican. He remains underwater, though. He is seen favorably 38%, while 50% view him unfavorably. In June, those figures were 30% and 63%, respectively. The poll was conducted from October 4th to October 12th by Fabrizio Ward, a Republican firm, and Impact Research, a Democratic company. 4% of respondents were undecided in the Senate race, while 2% said that they would vote for someone other than Fetterman or Oz. Which begs the question, like, wait, who else? Is there another candidate there? Yeah, Anyways, it's just wild, and I think that this is probably going to be a very close race. Um, 4% undecided could be enough to get one way or one way or another out of the margin of error. Um, so it's all going to come down to that. I just yeeted my phone. There's always another candidate. Not always. No, not always. Not always. Oh, it's not showing me. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's a bunch of people running for Senate. So John Fetterman, Oz, Richard Weiss, I think is the Green Party. Daniel Wasmer of the Keystone Party of Pennsylvania, which I don't know. Eric Gerhardt, Libertarian. Ronald Johnson, the Constitution Party, as a write-in candidate. Quincy Mackey as an independent as a write-in candidate, and Everett Stern as an independent write-in candidate. The good news for Fetterman is that he's still ahead, said John Anzalone, a founder of Impact Research and pollster for President Biden. But I would also say that it's not only good to be ahead. It's good to be ahead with an opponent who still has a net unfavorable in terms of how people perceive him, and that goes a long way in the last 3 weeks. Well, we'll see. We'll see if that's enough. Tony Fabricio, the founder of Fabricio Ward, who was a longtime pollster for former President Trump, said there is an opportunity for Oz among voters who haven't made up their minds. Right, which is what I said, that undecided 4% going in one way or another, or enough of those go one way or another, that could tilt the election, especially with an election this close. We'll see. When you look at the undecideds in the Senate race, they want to vote Republican in the generic ballot. They are net positive toward Trump's job approval and they're net negative towards Biden's approval, he said, but they're more interested in economic issues than they are in social issues, so those things hold some glimmer of hope for Oz, obviously Oz. Yeah. In the AARP poll, Fetterman is outpacing Oz among suburbanites, a key voting bloc that often determines elections in Pennsylvania. Oz, however, is outrunning Fetterman among independents, another critical group of voters that can swing elections. Fetterman is only somewhat performing better among Democrats than Oz among Republicans, a sign that the GOP base has largely come home to the celebrity doctor after the grueling primary. Oz is winning men age 50 or older. Wow, surprise, surprise. Rural voters. Wow, surprise, surprise. And voters who do not have a college degree. Surprise, surprise. Fetterman is up with women age 50 and older, urban voters, and college-educated voters. Oz is preferred by white voters who are at least 50 years old. Wow, surprise, surprise. Fetterman, meanwhile, has expanded his lead among black voters 50 years old and up. He's winning 84% of those voters, a jump from 76% in June. In the AARP poll, Democrats lead Republicans in a generic ballot 47 to 45. That is the opposite of the June survey when Republicans were ahead 47 to 45. The inverse. 43% of likely voters currently approve of Biden's job performance, while 55% disapprove. That is an improvement for him compared to June when only 36% approved and 61% disapproved. In the October survey, 40% of likely voters said they approve of Trump, while 51% say they. Why are we still doing this? Is this supposed to be like some bellwether as to how the Republican candidate is going to perform? That seems kind of weird, but whatever. The state's gubernatorial race is much less of a nail biter than the Senate contest. According to the poll, Democrat Josh Shapiro is outrunning Republican Doug Mastriano 53 to 42%. Nice. Very nice. Shapiro has widened his lead since June when an AARP survey showed him up by 3 percentage points. Mastriano has aired few TV ads as Shapiro has battered him with commercials calling him an extremist, because he is. Shapiro's unfavorable rating is 50% to 33%. For Mastriano's 37 to 47%, only a slight change since June. 4% of respondents were undecided in a gubernatorial race, while 1% said they would vote for someone other than Shapiro or Mastriano, which again is enough. Even if the 4% end up going to the Republican, it won't be anywhere near enough to catch up. Biden said vote blue and I will codify Roe v. Wade on Twitter. True, we'll talk about that in a second. 4% of likely voters in the poll are ticket splitters backing both Shapiro and Oz, and they're primarily older white men. Meanwhile, both Democratic nominees are doing better among voters without college degree compared to how candidates are performing in other states, according to pollsters. Fabrizio said that it's likely due to how the candidates themselves are positioned, noting that the Republican candidates are below water in their favorability ratings. And as Anna Sullivan said Fetterman has an appeal to a universe of voters that is unique for Democrats. Though the Democratic candidates are ahead in the gubernatorial and Senate race, they are battling strong headwinds. 3/4 of likely voters in the poll said the country is headed in the wrong direction, while almost 2/3 are very or somewhat worried about their personal financial situation. Inflation and rising prices, as well as Social Security and Medicare, are the top issue for voters age 50 and up, and in the Senate race. Right, but okay, so both things. To address this, and I hope that people, if you know somebody who has these concerns, that are in these states. Number one, inflation. While it is a problem, and we must acknowledge it, it's a problem that you can't just pin on the Democratic Party. It would be unfair. I mean, unless you would have to, unless you can prove how the Democratic Party managed to create inflation across the entire planet, I fail to see how that's something that you can really fairly pin on the Democratic Party alone. And the only party who wants to gut Medicare is the Republican Party. This isn't like a new thing. So why would you vote Republican? There's no reason to vote Republican. George Floyd's family announced a $250 million lawsuit against Jew-hating billionaire rapper Kanye West after he falsely claimed that Floyd died from fentanyl and not from blatant police brutality. Well, I hope that that lawsuit goes through. F Kanye, or Ye, or whatever his name is. Trump brags about airtight NDAs and grabs no love from black community. Lauds Putin and calls with Woodward. Well, yeah, I hope that that lawsuit goes forward. in governor's race, inflation and abortion are the most important issues to those voters. Again, inflation is an international problem, not limited, or you can't fairly lay that at the feet of just the Democratic Party. And the only party that wants to curtail abortion rights is the Republican Party. So there's really no reason to vote Republican. According to the AARP poll, 16% of voters 50 and up are at 50 and over are persuadable in the Senate race, meaning that they are not definitely voting for Fetterman or Oz. 5% are leaning towards or probably voting for Fetterman, while the same is true for 7% with regard to Oz. 1% are casting a ballot for someone else, and the rest are undecided. 19% of voters 50 and older are persuadable in the governor's race, with 7% leaning toward or probably voting for Shapiro, and 9% leaning toward or probably voting for Mastriano. 1% are supporting someone else, and the rest are undecided. Nearly 1,400 likely voters were interviewed for the poll over landlines, cell phones and SMS to web, including an oversampling of voters 50 and up, as well as black voters 50 and older. The margin of error for statewide voters is plus or minus 4.4 percentage points. So the gubernatorial race looks much better in Pennsylvania. And the Senate race is getting closer to effectively being a coin flip, which is really uncomfortable. It's just unbelievable. But nonetheless, so piggybacking off this, how have the Georgia polls moved since Herschel Walker's abortion controversy? 2 weeks ago, the world learned that Herschel Walker, the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate in Georgia who supports a total abortion ban without exceptions, had paid for his pregnant then girlfriend to get an abortion in 2009. Walker, of course, denies this, but the evidence seems to corroborate this story. At the time, we cautioned that we would need to wait and see how the controversy might affect Walker's chances of winning the race. We now have new polling data that suggests that the story may have cost Walker some support. Wow. Unreal. Okay. The Trafalgar Group, Quinnipiac, Emerson College, and Insider Advantage have all polled Georgia since the abortion story broke. Those surveys showed Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock leading on an average 48% to 45% among likely voters. Unbelievable that it's even remotely this close. Whatever. Previously in those same pollsters' most recent survey taken before the news broke, the candidates were essentially tied at 47 each. So, +3, which is kind of within the margin of error. Another senatorial race that is going to be very important. And I assume one of the deciding factors as to who keeps the Senate. That's not a ton of movement. It's also narrow enough to be within the survey's margin of error. Yep. But the consistency among pollsters gives us more confidence that it represents a true shift. Warnock now leads by 4.1 percentage points in the 538 poll average of the race, up from 2.1 points on the day the story broke. And here it is. I still don't get how it's even remotely this close. after Herschel Walker just repeatedly lies and lies and lies and lies, literally lies about things that he doesn't even need to lie about. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why anybody would want this guy anywhere near a position of power. And as a result, our forecast for Georgia U.S. Senate race has moved into Democrats' favor. Warnock now has a 59 in 100 chance of winning the re-election, up slightly from 54 in 100 on October 4th. And here's the chart. But hang on a second, is there a chance this movement is for reasons other than Walker's abortion controversy? After all, there's no way to prove that the revelation caused a shift in the polls. In fact, right, I think that what their implication is causation doesn't, correlation doesn't equal causation or whatnot. But, you can only do so much. After all, there's no way to prove that the revelation caused this shift in the polls. In fact, 2 other polls conducted almost entirely before the abortion story broke also showed a shift towards Warnock in recent weeks. Well, maybe as it gets closer, it might continue to be in favor of Raphael Warnock. That raises the question, did anything else happen in September that could have hurt Walker or helped Warnock? Well, Democrats did spend the month hammering Walker in TV ads over old allegations of domestic abuse. According to Wesleyan Media Project, from September 19 to October 2nd, there were 7,257 pro-Democratic ads in the race compared to the 5,934 Republican ads. Imagine, this is how politics is done. Jesus Christ. The most likely answer is that the movement in the race is due to a combination of the abortion story and other pre-existing factors like the Democrats' TV advantage. Polling from Insider Advantage bears this out. The firm actually surveyed Georgia 4 times in the last 6 weeks, giving us a more granular look at how the race has shifted or hasn't. The Insider Advantage's September 6 to 7 poll, taken both before the abortion revelation and the last several weeks of Democratic advertising, Walker led 47 to 44%. Then the pollster was in the field on October 3rd when the abortion story broke that evening. As a result, it decided to scrub that poll and start over the next day. No details were released about the October 3rd poll, which is why it doesn't show up on our polls page, but the pollster did tease that it showed Warnock leading by 1 point. That suggests the race moved 4 points forward toward Warnock between September 6th and through 7th and October 3rd, at least according to this one pollster. Insider Advantage then released the poll it took on October 4th, the day after the abortion story broke. It showed Warnock leading by 4 points. That suggests the race moved an additional 3 points towards Warnock between October 3rd and 4th, i.e. after the abortion story broke. Of course, this is just one poll, but 3 points is still a lot of movement just in one day. Finally, Insider Advantage released a new poll this week, conducted October 16th. That poll, the one we used in the table above, gave Warnock a 3-point lead. So Walker may have started to recover from bad headlines, or this just may have been an insignificant shift caused by normal polling error. Again, all other shifts are within the margin of error too. We only feel comfortable discussing them because other pollsters have shown similar things. There are still 3 weeks until election day, so this isn't the final word on Walker's fate. It is possible that his scandals will become old news and Walker will continue to recover in polls. According to our forecast, there's an 18 in 100 chance that this race will go to a runoff on December 6th. If no candidate gets a majority of the vote in the general election, Georgia requires a runoff election to be held between the 2 top finishers. That could mean even more time for Walker's scandals to recede into the rearview mirror or for another scandal to occur. Well, I mean, it's Herschel Walker, right? So basically, don't take your eyes off this race. We'll continue to, see how this one goes, because this is also an important key race for the Democrats to win. to maintain control of the Senate. They have to keep this seat. So if you know anybody in Georgia, early voting is already underway. So if you live in Georgia or know people in Georgia, encourage them to get out. Early voting has started and will continue until November 3rd, I want to say. So for the next couple of weeks, early voting will be open. Let me just double check. Yeah, early voting started 2 days ago. I'm sorry. Early voting started 2 days ago, October 16th, all the way until November 3rd. Find your local voting place and go vote. Make sure we don't allow this lying, abusing celebrity has-been football player to become a senator. Votes matter, of course. At the end of the day, that's what counts, but it does help us get a feel for what's going on. So that's why we need to kind of use it as a bellwether. Take it, of course, with a grain of salt, but, it does help us get a feel for what's going on. But yeah, so, again, early voting in Georgia has started. So check your local places. If you are in Georgia or you know somebody in Georgia, encourage them to get out and vote, and make sure this piece of shit doesn't become a senator. All right, let's do the climate recap. That's cute.
Welcome to the Climate Recap from the Beckosphere Climate Corner, your go-to place for international and US-based climate news. I'm Becky Hogue, a climate communicator. Today is Monday, October 17th. Let's jump right into today's news.
Hit the like button
Let's start
for the
with some
cat.
extreme weather events. The UN estimates that a record 2.1 million people in Chad face acute hunger due to the worst drought in 30 years and a subsequent flooding event that knocked out crops. That's about a fifth of the country's population. 10% of all children in the country are affected by severe malnutrition, and 1 in 3 are expected to suffer from stunted growth.
Jesus.
Meanwhile, the Alaskan Department of Fish and Game canceled the winter snow crab season in the Bering Sea for the first time in history. That's a $200 million industry. The snow crab population has dramatically dropped from about 8 billion in 2018 down to 1 billion crabs in 2021. Scientists are not totally sure why, but climate change is likely involved. The Arctic is warming 4 times as fast as the global average. As suggested by its name, snow crabs need cold water to survive. So when the sea ice melts faster, the time in which cold pools form changes, which could impact the snow crab population. Bristol Bay's red king crab season has also been canceled for the second year in a row due to a large population decline. Time for a climate study. This one is rough. The latest Living Planet Index report determined that wildlife populations had declined by an average of 69% from the year 1790 to 2018. You might have read this terrifying statistic because it was immediately covered everywhere. But it turns out a lot of articles misunderstood the findings, so let me break down exactly what this number means. First of all, the index is one of the most ambitious efforts to track all the animals on land and in the sea, and a new report comes out about every 2 years. It's produced by the World Wild Fund of Nature and the Zoological Society of London. It only looks at vertebrates, so the spineless animals were not included. Overall, 5,320 species were looked at among almost 32,000 populations, which is the largest sample size yet. Many countries don't have good species monitoring services. Obviously, there's way more than 5,320 vertebrate species in the world, but these species...
Oh, well, geez, I'm so freaking glad that I did not dabble in that. I'm so glad that I did not completely go and dabble into that article. I'm glad that she did, because yeah, that's very important. Very important distinction there. Becky got trolled today. It would be good for you to advise her. She does not know how to deal with it. Deal with trolls? Yeah. I'm the professional trollser. So any trolls that she would like to send my way, I'll deal with them. I would be more than happy to deal with them.
Were chosen to be part of this study because of how much data was available for them. Data had to reach back to 1970. This could mean that this crisis is not as bad as it seems, but it also could mean that it is much, much worse. Many scientists would argue it's worse because the data barely includes one of the worst hit groups of animals, amphibians. Of the data the index includes, negative 69% is the average population size change, meaning some populations might have only fallen by 10% while others fell by 80. Other populations might have increased by 20. So it does not mean that there is 69% less wildlife out there. That being said, this average population decline is still very worrying and has gotten worse over the years. Latin America and the Caribbean saw the worst regional drop from 1970 to 2018, down 94%. This pattern was the most pronounced in freshwater fish, reptiles, and amphibians. Africa was next at 66%, Asia and the Pacific saw 55%. The region defined as Europe, Central Asia saw a small decline of 18%, as did North America at 20%. But researchers said larger biodiversity declines could have happened before 1970 in those regions, something that wouldn't have been reflected in the data. The vast majority of this biodiversity decline is man-made, from land use changes to invasive species to chemical pollution to climate change. Climate change will likely become the main driver of species extinction soon. Biodiversity is the net that holds humans up. It's our food supply, our medicine, the air we breathe, and a climate stabilizer all its own. We need to conserve it if we are to effectively tackle the climate crisis.
True.
So that's why I'm talking about it here. We need some climate victories after that. So let's start in Australia. Australians, did you know that switching to electric appliances right now could save you $500 to $1,900 a year off your energy bill? That's according to a new report by Climate Council.
Based. Social media is tough. Yeah, being a public figure is tough. And she's got a bigger channel than I do. So yeah, probably you might be right. You know, people are noticing her channel because she's got a good base to draw from. I told her she's making a difference when trolls start attacking. Oh yeah, true, 100%, 100%. Like I said, any trolls that would like to come my way, I'll deal with them.
In Melbourne, it could save you.
Do you know by any chance? Have you seen any moderators in her channel? Because like, I could help moderate the channel if necessary. I could help moderate the channel if it gets too much. I'll talk to her. I'll talk to her.
$943 a year by electrifying your heating, cooking, and hot water systems. Upgrade to a solar water heater, and your energy savings could be as high as $1,207 a year. On the screen are some more estimated price savings depending on where you live. The council recommends state governments.
It's an anarchist commune. There's a horizontal power structure. No. Not when it comes to channels. In my opinion, the only way to run a channel is to rule with an authoritarian iron fist.
To incentivize the switch with low to zero interest loans. In the US, the Biden administration released its national security strategy, and it mentioned the climate crisis a lot. Climate change is in the center of policymaking surrounding China and the Arctic, among other areas. This isn't the first time the US government has considered climate change a national security threat, but this is the first time that it really has been put at center stage. Some ways climate change impacts our national security include extreme weather events weakening economic hubs and infrastructure, destabilization of governments through climate change straining economic and food systems, and increased human migration due to political, economic, and food system destabilization. The US
is she on Twitter? I wasn't aware. She might be on Twitter. I don't know.
Reiterated its willingness to negotiate with rivals like China to tackle climate change, though it did take an opportunity to jab China for its impact on climate change through.
Of course I care. This is a fellow creator who's doing phenomenal work. Yeah, of course. And like I said, I'll reach out to her if she needs any type of like help with moderation. I will be the iron fist if I need.
Particularly coal-fired power production. China is the second largest historical greenhouse gas emitter behind the US.
True.
So I'm not sure we can talk. Speaking of China, the World Bank estimates that China needs $17 trillion in additional private investment to meet its climate goal of reaching net zero by 2060. Additionally, China might soon.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Usually you get nice like heads up with this. Oh yeah, she does have a Twitter account. I am following it. Okay, never mind. I knew that. Of course I did. I'm already following her. Yeah, that bot is so useful. Especially like what's also very important is like it tells you immediately. Although I think Twitch now helps. Twitch now tells you, but like if their account is like a 41-minute account or like a day-old account, that Posada bot will tell you. So that's super useful to kind of gauge whether I should, be a little bit harsher or not. If I think it's a troll. You can never know behind, on the internet where everybody is essentially anonymous. But I try my best. Haha, the troll was literally not anonymous. That's funny. That's a funny username. I could have sworn I've seen that username here. I've seen that username here. Let's see if I can do that. How does the command work again? I forget how the thing works. No, wait a minute. Hold on. I'll get this. Okay, I don't know how to use Bot. Jesus Christ. There we go. I figured it out. Took me a second. Unaware of any bans on user not anonymous. Is that, did I spell it right? They broke out with massive fossil fuel lever rants and racism. Yikes. Giga yikes. Yeah, it doesn't say. Maybe I'm typing the username wrong. I don't know. Where am I banned? Ah, nice.
More open to discussing climate things with the US again as it becomes a bigger liquefied gas or LNG customer to the US. As a reminder, China stopped having a dialogue with the US on most things after US House Speaker Pelosi took a little unwelcome trip to Taiwan. Anyways, while gas doesn't emit as much carbon dioxide as burning coal or oil, it is mainly made of methane, which is 84 times better at trapping it.
Oh my god. That tripped me out so much. That meow tripped me out so much because I think it's my cat. Buddy sounds just like that. I'm assuming both of these are I'm assuming her cat is male.
And heat than CO2 for the first 20 years they're in the atmosphere. Methane has a bad habit of leaking, so I'm not saying the US or China engaging in more fossil fuel activity is a good thing, but it does potentially open a channel to more energy talks between the two super emitters. Do you agree, or do you think I'm just grasping at straws? Let me know in the comment section below. Rue, come here. In other U.S. defense news,
cat is
the
the
Air
real
Force
boss,
and
true.
Space Force released its climate action plan in the beginning of this month. Their goal is to reach net zero emissions by 2046. I am curious to see how the Space Force plans to decarbonize space travel, but I'm here for it. The Air Force has
Not only that, like, what about the Air Force as well? I mean, like, the military itself is, like, massive when it comes to, like, its footprint, so to speak. Now after learning the carbon footprint is just like a greenwash term, like, I'm skeptical of using it, but I guess for, like, common parlance, I hope that you guys understand what I'm talking about when I mean footprint. But the U.S. military's footprint is huge. So, I mean, and really? Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna press X to doubt until I see it.
Carbon footprint in the Department of Defense, and the DoD has a carbon footprint similar to that of Denmark. The department has come out to say that it considers climate change to be one of the largest national security threats facing the US today. The Air Force and the Space Force plan to spend $36 million next year on infrastructure retrofits meant to reduce emissions and adapt to climate change. The amount is expected to grow to $100 million per year by the end of 2026. Here are some other key objectives the Air Force has in its plan. Do you think that the forces are on the right track?
No. I'm sorry, but, like, I don't really trust anything. That the military says until I see it. The U.S. Armed Forces don't have any environmental officers. I don't know. I'm sure they have advisors and the Army Corps of Engineers, like, and whatnot. Cruise ships do, and yet they're incredibly toxic. Cruise ships I guess if it's true, I'm taking your word for it. But if that is the case, that cruise ships do have advisors and whatnot, it makes no difference because they're incredibly polluted, destructive to the environment.
Let me know down below. Let's look at some state news now. Arkansas had to open its new round of electric charging station rebate programs early because there was so much demand for it. The rebates can cover up to 90% of the cost of eligible public level 2 charging stations, which can charge vehicles in 8 hours or less. In the first round of rebates this year, the program reimbursed more than $200,000 in EV charging station costs. The $230,000 that just opened up wasn't supposed to be offered until 2023. The money comes from the $14.6 billion the state was awarded from Volkswagen, who was caught cheating in a required federal emissions test back in 2015. The rebates are available for up to 10 level 2 charging stations per applicant installed after February 1st and available for public use. Similar rebates are also available for places like apartment complexes.
Yeah, but they also pollute a whole bunch. Yeah, cruise ships are horrible. Cruise ships are horrible. Don't get it twisted.
And employers with private parking. The rebates cover up to 90% of the charging station costs on government-owned property and 70% of costs for public chargers on non-government property. For workplace or multi-unit dwelling stations, the rebates will cover up to 50%. Arkansas is also providing financial assistance in installing 150 kilowatt DC fast chargers, which can charge vehicles in less than an hour. It'll pay for 75% of the cost. Arkansas recently received $54.1 million from the new National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program created by the Inflation Reduction Act to go towards making publicly available DC charging stations every 50 miles within 1 mile of interchanges. Let me know what you think of all those incentives, especially if you live in Arkansas. Over on the West Coast, Vancouver becomes the 4th big city in Washington state to permanently ban large new fossil fuel developments on its land. Any new fuel sources must be made from clean energy sources. Existing fossil fuel projects can only expand up to 15% and only if it switches to cleaner fuels, upgrades seismic standards, gets fire and spill response plans approved, etc. Farther south, 5 California tribes agreed to join the Tribal Marine Stewards Network, where they will collectively get $3.6 million to lead 12 coastline conservation initiatives over the next 3 years. 4 tribes are in Northern California and 1 is in Southern California. Some initiatives already underway include restoring salmon spawning beds near Santa Cruz, monitoring mussel populations, and working with tribal leaders to conserve threatened traditional plants and animals. California also just approved a $140 million desalination plant for Orange County,
Nice.
past LA. It will produce enough clean drinking water to serve 400,000 people's daily needs. The Coastal Commission previously rejected a privately owned plant 10 times the size of this one. Environmental groups generally say smaller plants don't hurt the surrounding ecosystems as much, so this move is a win for the environment. Desalination plants are becoming more needed as we are in the worst drought we've seen in 1,200 years, especially when we don't focus on the biggest user of our water, big agriculture. But I digress. Louisiana's governor just announced a carbon capture and storage project, which will be attached to the LP Industries manufacturing complex that makes ammonia through fossil gas processes, called blue ammonia. After being captured, the carbon dioxide will be transferred through 4,000 miles of EnLink midstream pipelines to be permanently stored underground on a property owned by ExxonMobil. The companies expect the project to begin early 2025, and when the project is done, it is supposed to take up 2 million metric tons of CO2 annually. The project will likely tap into carbon capture subsidies from the Inflation Reduction Act. The LP Industries complex is the largest industrial emitter in Louisiana, releasing over 10 million metric tons of CO2 a year, according to Louisiana State's 2021 Greenhouse Gas Inventory Report. The state's whole industry sector emits 142 million metric tons a year, and permitted projects are expected to emit another 101 million metric tons. Suddenly, the 2 million metric tons taken out by this carbon capture project doesn't sound like much. Carbon capture and storage is required at this point for us to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, but how it gets implemented is a tricky topic. Let me know what you think about this project and carbon capture in general in the comment section below. This story leads us into the climate fails. Remember, don't get despondent, get mad. Egypt effectively silenced its independent environmentalists according to the Human Rights Watch. This is part of the regime's larger strategy to repress human rights protests, which it says could threaten meaningful climate talks. To be clear, drowning out voices never leads to effective change. Egypt is hosting this year's UN climate conference, COP27, next month. As the environmental director of Human Rights Watch said, quote, "It will be a fundamental mistake if diplomats go..."
So, like, who made the decision to make this COP27 in
to
Egypt?
COP27 thinking they need to go softly on human rights in order to make progress in the climate talks. We will not get the urgent climate action needed without civil society pressure. The situation in Egypt shows us that. Human rights versus climate action is a false debate. It's not either or. We need people in the streets, independent environmentalists and human rights activists, strategic litigation, and independent courts to generate change.
True.
Some sensitive issues Egypt doesn't want academics and environmental activists to talk about are corporate interests like tourism, agribusiness, and real estate, military business like water bottling plants, cement factories.
What? But
and
those are like massively okay. Whatever. It's
And
such
quarry
it's such a
mines
fucking scam. What a sham! Sorry, sham is the word.
and industrial pollution, because the industrial pollution in Cairo is really bad. Egypt has rejected the Human Rights Watch findings. It's going to be an interesting conference, to say the least. I already talked about how leaders of the financial institutions like BlackRock and Citigroup will not attend COP27. Other financial groups, a part of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, or GFANZ, like JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America, are threatening to leave the group for fear of being sued if they don't meet the decarbonization targets. They're probably feeling antsy because fossil fuel lending was up for the first 9 months of this year by 15% compared to that same period in 2021.
True.
That's over 300.
Putin's good? No. Fuck Putin. Next question.
$100 billion going against their decarbonization goals of decarbonizing themselves and their portfolios by 2050. They voluntarily signed up for GFANZ less than a year ago at COP26. Over 50 groups signed up with a total assets worth $135 trillion. The Transform Treaty charity accused UK companies of not mentioning climate change, the environment, or human rights in their bilateral investment treaties, or BITs, affording them greater legal protection than the citizens of that country. They also found that companies from the UK, mainly in energy and mining, are among the main case bringers in suits against states, and they do so anytime they think their profits are being threatened. They are able to do that because of an investor-state dispute settlement mechanism specified in BITs. UK companies have used these treaties and mechanisms to their advantage in 66 cases over the last 10 years. This reminds me of the Energy Charter Treaty that we talked about on Wednesday. Ugh. Developing countries have been disproportionately the ones sued in these cases, like Bolivia, Congo Brazzaville, Tanzania, and Colombia. It has never been used in Western Europe or North America. Meanwhile, activists had no luck pinning UK companies down for human rights and environmental abuses. According to a different Transform Treaty report, there has been no criminal prosecutions of a UK corporation for human rights abuses overseas, and just 17 human rights cases were brought in civil courts, with none of them being successful in trial, although 6 have been settled and 8 are ongoing. Clearly, law reform is needed. Switching gears and going back over to the US, the Endangered Species Act isn't working. It hasn't worked well during its 50 years of implementation, mainly due to lack of resources. This is according to a new study published in PLOS One on the eve of the Act's 50th anniversary. Ouch. Despite hundreds of species being listed, only 54 have made a full recovery. Main sources of funding for the ESA dropped by almost half when it was measured on a per species basis. More prioritization is clearly needed here based on what we've learned on the biodiversity state earlier in this video.
True.
Let's finish up today's episode with an ongoing story. The California oil industry is fighting a new law requiring oil and gas wells to be at least 3,200 feet feet away from homes, schools, and any other places people could be harmed by drilling operations. It also tightened noise, light, and chemical pollution requirements for existing wells. Operators must provide regulators with analyses of chemicals in any wastewater transported from existing drilling sites, and by January 2027, implement a plan to rapidly detect and fix leaks of noxious gases and methane at those sites. In addition to contributing to climate change, well operations can contaminate regional air and water, causing cancer, asthma, and other illnesses. So this is basically a health bill that is being fought right now.
Yep.
Nielsen Markskammer, a top lobbying firm that represents several major fossil fuel companies, filed a referendum to reverse this ruling on behalf of a board member from the California Independent Petroleum Association. That means the industry and its allies have until December 15th to collect 623,212 signatures to put this matter back on the ballot in the next general election. If they succeed, this process could push off the protections until 2024. It was supposed to come into effect in 2023. Fingers crossed that they do not get those signatures.
Eyes
Do you
open,
think that they
California.
will? Let me know in the comment section below. And that was your climate recap for Monday, October 17th. Join me on Twitch tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for more climate news. Remember to talk about the climate crisis every single day and to support your local news organizations. Thank you so much to the people on Patreon who help support me and my fur baby Rue. A special shout out to the climate confident and courageous David H., Norman Anal, Greg
Wait,
H.,
that was done
Paul
today,
E.,
so she's
Phil
streaming
Plaza,
tomorrow as
Dan
well?
Morton, Dane Chris, Nate, Specker, and Bree C. I greatly appreciate signatures to put this matter back on the ballot in the next. Get those signatures. Do you think that they will? Let me know in the comment section below. And that was your climate recap for Monday, October 17th. Join me on Twitch tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for more climate news. Remember to talk
Gotcha.
about the climate
Okay.
crisis.
Well, follow and whatnot. Make sure you go to twitch.tv/Beccasphere. I'll be there tomorrow. All right, folks, we've got let's talk about this one. Biden pledges to codify abortion rights if Democrats win midterms. I'll sign it in January as it happened. Biden promised to codify Roe v. Wade in his first post-midterm legislation if Democrats keep control of Congress, saying, "I'll sign it in January," during a speech at the DNC event in Washington, D.C. Biden also promised to veto any federal abortion ban that comes across his desk. That sounds like a good idea. And here's the full quote. There it is. Biden has officially announced that if Democrats gain control of the Congress, his first move will be to send a bill codifying Roe v. Wade and sign such legislation ahead of the 50th anniversary of the 1973 decision. Okay, two things. A, he needs a veto-proof majority to pass this. Two, or I should say, there has to be a willingness to carve out an exception for the filibuster. That's another way. I don't know if executive order is gonna do it. So just simply having control of Congress does not equal his ability to do this. Biden added, the first bill I will send to Congress will be to codify Roe v. Wade, and if Congress passes it, I'll sign it in January. Together, we'll restore the right to choose to every woman in every state in America, said Biden, emphasizing that the crowd needed to vote to ensure such protections. I'm going to be honest, he doesn't have a good track record to back that statement up. He doesn't have a good track record to back that statement up. He also was the vice president during the Obama administration. So, like, while it's good that he emphasizes the importance of abortion rights, when you contrast it to what he's done previously, it gets a little bit tougher to believe him. So we'll see. Buckle up for 2 years of nothing happening except government shutdowns and impeachment drama. True! I'm ready. So there you have it. The big announcement from that press conference. I don't suspect that we'll see much. I mean, we'll be in the same position if the Democrats win by some miracle of chance. If the Democratic Party maintains the House and the Senate in the midterm election, we'll be in the exact same position. Meaning that how are you expecting this to get done if you're unwilling to carve out exceptions for the filibuster? I'm just saying, you gotta have a game plan here. Otherwise, and based on like your other previous actions, it's hard to trust you. Whatever the votes are, the Republicans will demand recounts anyways. That's not what I'm talking about, though. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. The game plan is to throw their hands up in the air and say, shit, we can't after all. We know this, though. We know this. We know this because that's the current situation that we're in right now. So the question then becomes, like, what makes it, where's the different scenario here where the Democratic Party wins the House and the Senate again, and it will roughly be the same makeup. We won't have a filibuster majority. We won't have a filibuster majority. It's not pessimistic, it's realistic. If it didn't happen now with the scenarios that we have now, why should I trust Dark Brandon? What's going to be the difference if the Democratic Party wins? In terms of what I'm talking about is the makeup of the Congress, right? How are you going? What is the game plan to avoid the filibuster? Are you going to push for an exception to be carved out? I mean, you gotta at least have that as part of your statement. Otherwise, this all means nothing. Come on, Doc Brandon, do another executive order. Can he? Can he do an executive order? If so, then yeah, that's what he should do. Then yes. I don't know how that would work when it comes to like abortion rights, but yeah, if he can, If he has the authority, then he should have done it already. Why does he need to wait until after the midterms? Why does he need to wait till after the midterms if he can do an executive order? The Republicans and apathetic voters will work against the Democratic means anyways. No, that's not an excuse for their failure on this one. That's not an excuse on their failure for this one. By default, we know that the Republican Party is against all this. The Republican Party is actively trying to undermine anything regarding the abortion rights. The Republican Party is trying to undermine any democratic systems. We know this. This is like the default given. We know that the Republican Party is incredibly dangerous. All anyone can do is their best, and well, that's the thing, though. Are they doing their best? Because, like, if it's true that Biden can just do an executive order, then why has he done it, and why do I need to wait for the midterms? I think these are valid questions. But anyways, the point being is that we're going to need more than this. We're going to need more than this. Because they ran on this last time too, in 2020. All right. Let's talk about this. The DNC itself seems pretty confident. I agree more should be done, but I don't lead the DNC management. I don't care about the DNC. I care about who's making decisions now. Who is the president right now? And what can they do? And are they doing it? Those are the questions that I'm interested in. And I don't care what the DNC is doing or not doing at this point in time. I'll worry about that as, the presidential elections get closer. But I don't think the DNC has anything to do with this. Starbucks sued for accusing unionized workers of assault and kidnapping. How low can we go, folks? How low can we go? Starbucks was sued on Monday by 8 employees at a unionized South Carolina store who said that the company falsely accused them of criminal conduct after they demanded a raise from their manager. The workers filed a lawsuit in South Carolina State Court against Starbucks and a manager at the store in Anderson, a few miles from Clemson University. They claimed the manager urged police to charge them with assault and kidnapping after the workers pressed her for a raise in August. Jesus. Yeah, imagine getting the police involved because your employees are asking for better wages and then trying to get them arrested for assault and kidnapping. The store's employees had voted 18-0 to unionize in June. That's why they're big mad. Big mad. At least 240 other Starbucks in the US have unionized over the past year. Nice. And the company has been accused of illegal labor practices at dozens of locations. Starbucks has denied any wrongdoing, which of course I don't believe them for a second. I have never been accused of kidnapping. They should hire me. True. Starbucks, in a statement provided by a spokesman, said it was reviewing this lawsuit. No Starbucks partner has been or will be disciplined for supporting or engaging in lawful union activity. But interest in a union does not exempt partners from following policies and procedures that apply to all partners. Okay, but this has nothing to do with any of company policy or procedures, right? This has nothing to do with that. These assholes attempted to get them arrested for crimes, for criminal stuff. Because if they just violated a company policy or whatever, that's completely different. According to the complaint, Anderson workers on August 1st presented the manager with a letter calling for a raise. She then called the Starbucks district manager and falsely claimed that the workers were preventing her from leaving the store. The manager reported the incident to law enforcement 2 days later, prompting a weeks-long investigation that included police visiting some of the workers' homes, according to the lawsuit. The local sheriff's office ultimately concluded that the workers had done nothing illegal, the plaintiff said. In other words, they lied to the police and no wrongdoing, no crimes were committed by the workers. I mean, like, that's just pathetic. Immediately, once the police concluded that there was no illegal activity or no crimes being committed, that manager should have been immediately dismissed. Starbucks released a statement on August 8th saying that the manager had felt unsafe and the workers were suspended with pay pending an investigation. Well, the investigation concluded that they had done nothing illegal. The plaintiffs in Monday's lawsuit said the statement falsely suggested that they had threatened the manager and engaged in criminal conduct. The workers accused Starbucks of defamation and abusing the legal process in violation of state law. They were seeking unspecified compensatory and punitive damages based. I hope they win this lawsuit. I mean, how low can Starbucks go to try to pin criminal charges, or allowing a manager of theirs to attempt to pin criminal charges on workers for for voting unanimously to unionize? Oh my god, I don't believe this. Alright. Herschel Walker in the was it at the debate? I don't remember. Either way, at one of these events, he showed a fake prop badge that he attempted to pass off as a real badge. And of course, here he is attempting to double down on this. Alio with the 10 biddies, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Hi, this is Herschel Walker. This is the badge I flashed at the debate. And this Chef Rowland.
Yes. If Herschel's badge is,
Oh, come on.
I guess, this badge I wear every day to protect the citizen,
Can anybody tell me what the problem is here? These badges look nothing alike, folks. These badges look nothing alike.
I guess it's a prop also. But these are real badges, and I gave this to my friend for all he's done for this country and this county.
And let me tell you, I'm always stand behind our men and women in blue. So God bless.
Yes.
Jesus. The incident sparked a torrent of memes, ridicule, and renewed scrutiny of Walker's earlier claims, which it should. Ridicule is the only proper response to this. The Daily Show host joked on Monday that Georgia voters can only give Walker a certificate saying Emeritus Senator rather than get him elected to the Senate. He won't know the difference. True. Of course, Walker's previous claims about working in law enforcement, including that he was an FBI agent, have already been closely examined and found to be untrue. Yeah. Anyways, I just found that hilarious. The badge requires at least 5 brain cells, and Herschel is on his last 2. True. The first and only Walker Warnock debate, the toy badge, Walker was absent for the second one. Ah, okay, gotcha. Cheeseburger Freedom Eagle, how's it going? Yeah, so he got the sheriff to double down on his bullshit while flashing a badge that looks nothing like the badge that Herschel Walker has. I'm sure if he got a pair of wings from visiting a cockpit, he'd be qualified to fly the plane. True, that's exactly how that works. Anyway, so for those of you that are just coming in, we finished this story where Starbucks is attempting to accuse workers. Well, no, not attempting. Did accuse workers of assault and kidnapping, and now these workers are suing Starbucks and that, I believe, manager as well. So good on them. Fuck Starbucks. MTG is now saying that she will be Trump's VP. Well, she is a fascist, so it checks out. It checks out if somebody like Trump would choose her, but just give him a kite and he can claim to be a pilot. True. There you go. Where is that, Alio? Did she make a tweet about it or what? Hold on, I think I might have found something. Nah, it's I don't know. It's bad, Mono. I don't know if I want to be under either of those things. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Representative Greene of Georgia, said she discussed with former President Trump about the possibility of her serving as his running mate in the potential 2024 presidential bid, though she said the GOP establishment thinks she's too divisive. Yeah. That's not really the word I would use. But whatever. Greene told New York Times reporter Robert Draper that she would be honored to serve as Trump's running mate, but she also appeared to recognize that Trump is not exactly a unifying figure himself. He may need to run alongside someone who with broader appeal in a general election. I think the last person the RNC or the National Party wants is me as his running mate. Weapons of mass delusion when the Republican Party has lost its mind. The excerpt published in the New York Times focused on the far-right congresswoman's trajectory, with the Republican Party going from relatively marginalized figure to one of the party's most influential voices. Yep. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Trump would choose her as a running mate. I don't think so. I'm late, but I made it. Well, I appreciate that. Welcome. Trump has money and legal issues, plus Trump can't fundraise if he announces to run. What? Why? Wouldn't he be able to fundraise for the campaign? I think Trump would pick somebody like Nikki Haley or Kristi Noem. Really? You think so? He can only grift for so long. As long as that core doesn't move, he'll keep fleecing. If he announces officially. Oh, Trump could not use the PACs and super PACs Trump uses now, plus the GOP would tell Trump what to do unless I know. No, I think he would be the one running the show. But I see what you're saying now. You're talking about like the PAC money. I see what you're saying. Alright, folks. Buffalo shooter radicalized through fringe online platform reports. Find. Surprise Pikachu face, folks. Attorney General Tish James and Governor Kathy Hochul released a report on Tuesday on the role that the online platforms played in the racially motivated shooting at the Buffalo supermarket earlier this year that killed 10 people and wounded 3. Once he announces officially he's going to get slammed with legal challenges, I hope so. F that guy. The report concluded that fringe online platforms like 4chan radicalized the shooter. Live stream platforms like Twitch, were weaponized to publicize and encourage copycat violent attacks. Not surprised. And lack of oversight, transparency, and accountability on these platforms allowed hateful and extremist views to proliferate online, leading to radicalization and violence. This is a long-winded way of saying like stochastic terrorism is a thing that needs to be addressed. After the shooting, Hochul announced new actions to strengthen gun laws in New York and quell the spread of white supremacy online. Part of that was a referral to James' office to study the role that the online platforms played in the 18-year-old shooter's reported white supremacist ideology before the shooting in the largely black community. Investigators reviewed thousands of pages of documents, social media content, and policies practiced by the platforms. James' office said it subpoenaed several platforms used by the shooter, including 4chan, 8kun. Wait, is 4chan still a thing? Yeah, I don't know. Reddit, Discord, Twitch, and YouTube, and other online platforms where graphic content of the shooting or the shooter's manifesto appeared, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Rumble. Peyton Gendron was indicted after the May 14th shooting. Police said he drove about 3 hours from his home in Conklin, New York's southern tier, with the intent to kill as many black people as possible. He live-streamed this event from from a helmet-mounted camera. Hochul and James are now calling for reforms at both state and federal levels to combat online extremism. They want state legislation that would criminalize graphic images or videos created by a perpetrator of a homicide and penalize individuals who reshare or repost those same images or videos. They're also recommending changes to Section 230 of the Federal Communications Decency Act to require companies to take reasonable steps to prevent unlawful, violent criminal content from appearing on their platform. James said that on Tuesday, she met with victims' families to share the findings of the report. The tragic shooting in Buffalo exposed the real dangers of unmoderated online platforms that have become breeding grounds for white supremacy. True. It does not surprise me that these large platforms that go unmoderated would lead to this. Part of the issue, part of this I take issue with from a theoretical standpoint. Now, sure, there's absolutely needs to be more regulation, rule enforcement, etc. online, but the problem of online that causes the issues, in my opinion, is unregulatable. It's the fact that fringe groups are no longer fringe; they're collective. They're collective. It's the fact that socialization no longer happens in the real; it happens in the digital, and so there's no filter, checks and balances. It's the fact that the alternate view, can just be turned off. I mean, yeah, I think that that's a part of it. I think that it's a part of it, yes. But it's because these platforms operate in this manner, have allowed for the environment for things like, what you're describing to manifest themselves. I watched 15 Twitch channels this month and all closed. What do you mean all closed? Like they stopped streaming or they were yeeted? And Parler just got flush with cash from Ye. Yep. Nobody really honestly engages with different views anymore. They just turn it off. They block or they unsubscribe. The perfect example is look at the values and norms of a rural person versus an urban person. One is isolated to one group and the other is super socialized with different ones. The internet makes everyone rural, it makes everyone a bubble, and bubbles lead to bad bubbles lead bad views. And bubbles let bad views thrive because dissent is shunned. Yeah. Breaking TOS and copyright showing illegal movies, and Twitch closed it. Well, yeah, I mean, if they're breaking TOS, then what do you... yeah. But yeah, the point is that these platforms allow for an environment like this to kind of to happen, where things like this happen. Breaking TOS, yep. Candace Owens played this man like a pro, and her husband did at least. Yeah, well, all bubbles are bad except my bubble, which is good. True. But what if I told you my bubble is good? What if I told you my bubble is the only good bubble? Your bubble is bad, that's facts. Well, I say that my bubble is good. That's facts. Yeah, he bought a trash platform that leaked every user's email address. True. I'm so glad I don't have... I never got Parler. I don't need to be open-minded when I'm right. True! That's usually my rationale, right? Huh. Human beings have to be accountable. Well, movies are mostly fictional. Horror movies does not condone and hurt people in real life. I don't think I've made a comment about a movie. All right. Video shows stunned Floridians arrested for voting. When police came to arrest Tony Patterson outside his Tampa home, he couldn't believe the reason. Voter fraud. So we're getting a little bit of more of insight as to what happened when Governor DeSantis announced that there was 19 people that were arrested for voter fraud. It turns out that the overwhelming majority of these folks weren't properly notified as to whether or not they were able to vote and weren't properly instructed because they shouldn't have been allowed to get registered in the first place. As videos further support, this amendment and subsequent actions by state lawmakers have caused mass confusion about who was eligible, and the state's voter registration forms offer no clarity. They only require that a potential voter swear under penalty of perjury that they're not a felon, or if they are, that their rights have been restored. The form does not clarify that those with murder convictions don't get automatic restoration of their rights. Oliver, who served 18 years in prison for on a second-degree murder charge, registered to vote at the Department of Highway and DMV. And 6 months later, she updated her address and completed another registration form, which again should have never been allowed if that was the case. It also relates, in my opinion, relates back to the sharp rise in parasocial relationships online. Everyone is desperate to fit in, to be accepted, to feel connection. Yeah, but that's kind of been like a theme like throughout, right? Regardless, and online is easy because you don't have to be you. You can be someone you create, and you can seek out these things you normally wouldn't. Yeah, I guess that's the difference, though, right? They jump from other groups when called out, but it skips the learning part that all humans go through when they get told off. They get rejected, they get pushed back, and that when they get pushed back. And that part is where people learn and grow. It's something I've been discussing with some people for a good while now, and no real analysis or trajectory we've delved into so far is positive, which is concerning. In other words, I'm going to assume that you are saying that this is just going to continue. DeSantis should be pushed to resign after human trafficking and shipping people to other states. Yeah, but he's not going to resign. He's not going to resign. So for those of you that are in Florida, vote this fucker out. After a brief eligibility checks by the Department of State, which reports to DeSantis and is responsible for clearing the votes of ineligible voters, she was given a voter ID card both times. Oliver wasn't removed from the rolls until March 30th this year, more than 2 years later. The recording by Tampa Police and Hillsborough County Sheriff deputies reveal officers who were patient, understanding, and almost apologetic. A handcuffed Nathan Hart, 49, found a sympathetic ear when he explained how he ended up registering and voting illegally, according to the sheriff's recording. As he stood handcuffs, he told the officer he signed up to vote at the encouragement of somebody at the driver's license plate place. Okay, the DMV. Records show it's March in 2020. I said I'm a convicted felon, and I'm pretty sure I can't. Hart, who's a registered sex offender, told the officer, he goes, well, are you still on probation? Hart's probation had ended a month earlier. The person told him to sign up anyways. He said, well, just fill out this form, and if they let you vote, then you can. If they don't, then you can't. Then there's your defense. You know what I'm saying? The officer was correct in one way. The state law said that if a voter has to willfully commit this crime, a hurdle that has forced some prosecutors to not to charge ineligible voters. In Lake County this year, for example, prosecutors declined to bring charges against 6 convicted offenders who voted in 2020. In all the instances where sex offenders voted, each appeared to have been encouraged to vote by various mailings and misinformation. Each were given voter registration cards, which would lead one to believe that they could legally vote in the election, and the evidence fails to show willful action on the part of these individuals. DeSantis' voter fraud arrests are being carried out by the Office of Statewide Prosecution, which is restricted by law to prosecute crimes including voting involving 2 or more judicial circuits. Those crimes are usually complex, often large-scale, and organized criminal activity. Oliver's lawyer, Tampa attorney Mark Rankin, said that he thinks DeSantis' election security force chose these 20 in particular because the public would not have sympathy for people who are convicted of murder or sexual offenses during the news conference announcing these arrests. That's not an accident, it's political strategy. Yep. Yeah, so it looks like these folks, for the most part, because of the way the state system is, it's very confusing, and by most accounts, they received a voter ID. We've got whole generations of kids that have grown up online and never understood what rejection is like or what correction is like. And so when they presented with it, they get super defensive or reactionary. Think of like when you were a kid at school, you'd ask a girl and she'd say no, you get sad and you move on. Nowadays, young men are chasing women on OnlyFans and don't get immediately shot down. And so push and push until it gets extreme, and then it gets dangerous. I mean, I think there's certain, yeah, I mean, yes, you can see with the incel movement and whatnot. Yeah. But I think it's like a combination of like the platforms that have allowed to create, you know, this kind of environment. And of course, the individuals themselves. And of course, the system that we're under isn't exactly ideal either. Is a big concern I've had with online spaces because that's definitely rising and definitely dangerous to women. They're not understanding basic socializations that being fed confusing messages of respect women versus you can pay for attention. They don't know how to make sense of it all. And a lot of them are just get angry and fall down the Peterson, Shapiro, and Tate road. Yep. True. And well, I would say that while it isn't like 100%. You know, things like deplatforming these assholes, and it does kind of help, somewhat. Moderation and accountability is important. If people cannot tell reality versus fantasy, there's trouble. Yeah, of course, and that's the problem, right? There's a fundamental disconnect with reality itself. There's a lot of people pushing bullshit online to a lot of people. I mean, what James is describing, like the whole Peterson, Shapiro, Tate pipelines, all of these are just pushing a completely fictional, divorced from reality ideology, and are pushing folks to believe them. Millions of people. Millions of people. I mean, if you take like the combined audiences of like Peterson and Shapiro and, well, not so much Andrew Tate anymore, but if you take the audiences of these people, their reach is huge. And that does have a real world ripple effect. Alex Jones owns 965 million. Yeah. Yeah, he lost his lawsuit. Any sort of moderation or changes are welcome for sure, but my concern is that some of these things can't be, quote, regulated unless you dismantle whole platform or systems which you're probably not going to do or not feasible. Maybe I don't know how. I mean, you could attempt to break up some of these platforms, but I don't know. How do you show young men to respect women when they don't even go outside to speak to them, when they can't, when they can stay inside and get attention immediately with money or a login? Social stuff is hard and frustrating. It's a hard sell when up against instant gratification. Yeah, I mean, I guess like it's the responsibility of like people who have these platforms, to encourage this, right? People who have these platforms should be encouraging, if you have that type of audience. I mean, it really doesn't matter. You should be encouraging everybody, to just respect each other, right? Regardless, right? I mean, it's about how the creators and you know, the people who you listen to act as well. It's on them too. Since we're already in this mess, it's up to like the large creators and whatnot, and these folks. But you know, try telling Peterson that, or try telling Ben Shapiro that. And it's not exactly that far off from, you know, jumping from like the incel community to getting further radicalized and further radicalized. And you know, I have many thoughts about what you just typed, but even Bogeyman and Amaranth take breaks. Yep, it's this dude again. True. Ron DeSantis. But yeah, on the creator side, you know, you also have to take breaks too sometimes. How we doing tonight? I'm doing all right. I'm getting ready to go get some food. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting ready to get some food. Folks, it is about that time. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. It's been a while since I've been in and catch you at the very tail end. It's all good. Don't worry, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back. I'm just glad that you stopped by even for a moment. Doesn't matter. I appreciate that. You get 5 free emotes for the follow, and if you guys have a second, you know, it really does help us out if you go on the YouTube channel and just hit that red subscribe button. It really does help us out. Spread the word that far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for news and politics. Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Join us on the weekends as well. Join the Discord and do all that awesome stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sometimes delve into these points without coming off wrong. What you have to be super clear about is that it's not the fault of women that young men are being led astray. Yeah, of course, 100%, right? Yeah, like that's like, yeah, I agree. That's on men. Yes, people should be able to do what they want without weirdos chasing them about and stalking them. True. But the other thing is that a man did exploit this Amaranth person to do a lot of these things. True. So a lot of it falls on men to really make social stuff better. True. Yeah. Yeah. No lies detected here. No lies detected. You won't get a disagreement from me. Yeah. I agree. It's rough hearing stories like that, right? It's rough. It's rough hearing stories like that. the takeaway from that is be better. You know, be better. Jesus Christ. I do appreciate that, James Napper. Thank you. Yes, I agree with this 100%. But I do gotta get going. I'm hungry. One can always be better. True! One can always be better. In fact, we should always be striving to do better, right? I mean, like, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about progress, right? One should always strive to do better. There's always room to be better. Eat. True. All right, I'm rambling. Be good. Be better. It's little things that you can do. Peace, y'all. Be a better person than yesterday. There you go. That sounds like a plan. Be a better person than yesterday. Okay? Alright, folks, I gotta get out of here for real. Thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Alright, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.